Hello, brothers and sisters of the internet, geeks and nerds, Marvel fans all. I want to throw my 2 cents in and let you know what I think about the Captain Marvel controversy, as well as the state of the MCU and what I think this movie is going to have to the future of the MCU. Now, there are literally thousands of videos out there right now talking about Captain Marvel, and I'm sure most of you have seen quite a few of these. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail here, but I do want to kind of go over some of the key aspects of why this movie is so controversial, why it's made such a big uproar, and as I said, what I think is going to happen down the road as a result. So the problems with this movie really began upon inception. The question is, why a Captain Marvel movie? Captain Marvel isn't a very interesting character, nor is she particularly popular. Really, I would absolutely love to see a Moon Knight movie. Where's that? Let's get Moon Knight in the MCU. Now that would be an interesting movie, and I would pay money to see that. Instead, Marvel decided to go with Captain Marvel. So why Captain Marvel? Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that there is a particular political contingent out there that's really been demanding this for a while. And just like they did with Star Wars, this is Disney's way of bowing to that contingent. Now let's compare the marketing of this movie to two other movies. The first is Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman is obviously a strong female character, and it was a good movie. And it wasn't marketed as a feminist movie. It was marketed as a superhero movie with a female lead. And I think that's important. Because even there are definitely some feminist ideals in it, it's hard to avoid with a movie like that. Again, it never said that it's not made for anybody else. It's a movie made for everybody. And if it happens to get a point across, awesome. Same thing with Black Panther. Black Panther was never a black movie. Now, there was definitely a celebration of blackness, I would say, in it, and that's perfectly fine. It never said, this isn't for the white guys. It never said this isn't for a particular demographic. It said this is for everybody, and let's celebrate what this movie is about. Even its politics were part of the setting. It wasn't being beaten to your head. Captain Marvel, however, is literally being pushed as a feminist movie. Brie Larson has said it's a feminist movie, and even its director has said this is a feminist movie. Now, there is nothing wrong with a feminist movie. By all means, make it. And I hope that, you sell tickets. But I'm not going to see it. I'm not interested, and I'm not going to spend money on that. I want to go to a movie, eat popcorn, be entertained. And if there's some thought-provoking, interesting themes going on, again, like Black Panther, great. Get those in there. I'm more power to you. But to sell a movie as overtly political, well, you've lost me. And the $16 I would have spent on the movie. The next problem is casting. Brie Larson stars as the titular character, Captain Marvel. Now, from day one, people were complaining that Brie Larson was miscast. Now, I was willing to give her a chance, especially after watching Ben Affleck as Batman. A lot of people were saying he was miscast as well, and I thought he did a fantastic job. However, watching the trailers, I'm watching Captain America, and she just lacks charisma. There is nothing interesting about her. I don't want to watch her on screen. She doesn't captivate, and she doesn't draw my interest to this character at all. One of the hallmarks of the MCU is the ability of the lead characters to carry their movies. And it doesn't look like Brie Larson is doing that. The second problem is Brie Larson carries a lot of baggage to this role. She has said, I don't need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. Now, that sounds pretty divisive to me. And most recently, she's on record saying that she believes that her press junkets are too overwhelmingly white male. Now, she sought to clarify that, saying that she wants to add more seats to the table, but that's not how press junkets work. When you have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of people that you can have coming to those, then you're not adding seats, you're removing seats to add other people. So that doesn't work. Now, personally, I have no issue with that. Just know that you're cutting into your own fan base. Now, it's important to remember that the Marvel fan base is overwhelmingly male. That's not to say that all fans are male, or that there isn't a significant portion that are female. It is to say, though, that when you denigrate your fan base, there's going to be a backlash. And in this case, there was. And then thus we see the Rotten Tomatoes backlash. Now, some of you have probably seen in the past that there used to be a little meter at the bottom where people would be able to go vote before a movie came out to say whether or not they'd see it. And in the case of Captain Marvel, a huge majority, last I think it was at 75%, said they would not go see this movie. It caused such a backlash, in fact, that Rotten Tomatoes actually removed that part of the website. There's some question as to whether or not it is specifically due to this movie or if it's something that they've been planning for a while, but I would say the timing is definitely suspect. And many of the anticipation scores specifically made reference to comments that Larson had made, as well as to this overall feeling that they're marketing this as a movie not made for them, but to a specific demographic. Now, this takes us to the next controversy. As I mentioned before, Rotten Tomatoes took down their anticipation meter, really it looks like as a result of this movie. Now, why is this important? Well, Rotten Tomatoes isn't the only one that is making changes, that is really actively defending this movie. The press will not let this movie fail. First, the press reports that the trolls, which are really Marvel fans, are review bombing this movie, which is impossible because you can't review a movie that isn't out yet. This is only an anticipation score. Second of all, if you look at the current reviews of people that have seen it, they're giving it high score but low praise. The most that people are talking about is a cat. Brie Larson herself is barely mentioned in any of these reviews. It's all her cat. Now, that doesn't make me want to see a movie. Now, that's not to say that none of these anticipation scores are given by trolls. Certainly, trolls do exist, and they are out there. But from what I've seen, a number of these have legitimate complaints and are giving it a score based on legitimate reasons. However, the media won't accept that narrative. They simply can't accept that a movie that they want to succeed may not succeed because people don't legitimately want to see it. We saw the same narrative from the press back when Ghostbusters 2016 was released. People saw the trailer and complained that it didn't look very good. And the press simply wouldn't allow it. Everyone that complained was just a misogynist troll that was upset about the female characters. Well, no, it was a bad movie. And because it was a bad movie, it bombed at the box office. And similarly, the critical ratings were way higher than the audience ratings. And I think we're seeing the same thing with Captain Marvel, and we'll be seeing more of that when the movie actually gets released. So why are they trying so hard? Why are they trying to make this movie succeed? Well, it's because they're trying to sell a political ideology. And they know that in order for this to work, it has to make money. So they're building it up for the public so that it will make money so they can make more movies like this in the future. The question is it going to work, or is it just another case of get woke, go broke? So another way that the media is propping this up is in its financial expectations. So originally this movie was expected to make $180 million. And of course, if it did, the press would come out and say, look at this. A feminist movie has made $180 million. It makes money. Let's make more of these movies. Well, since then, that projection has dropped. Currently, it's between 80 and 100 million. So now the media is forced to backtrack. And if you look at the articles now, it's not, hey, look, it's going to make $180 million. Look at this fantastic movie. It doesn't have to make $180 million to be a great movie or a successful movie. $100 million is more than enough to prove that it's a successful movie. Or even going lower, $80 million is enough to show that it's a fantastic movie and more of these movies need to be made. It's interesting how it can go from 180 down to 80 and still be considered successful. So that leads us to opening weekend. How well is it going to do? Now, my prediction is it's going to get about, I think it's going to open with about 85 million. It's an okay opening. It's not bad. It's definitely going to make money. Considering that the following weekend, it really doesn't have any competition. It's going to continue to make money over the next few weeks. But its opening weekend is going to do moderately okay. Now, I hope, just to send a message, that it actually only makes about 70 million, because I think that will actually send a signal to Disney and let them know that your marketing really sucks and you're losing your core fan base here. Now, again, the movie is going to do okay. Even 70 million is an okay draw. I believe that's better than Ant-Man actually made. So it will make money. The Marvel juggernaut is not going to be stopped in its tracks. And there are a lot of people that are going to see this movie just because they don't watch this kind of video. They're not as invested as the hardcore Marvel fans are. And as much as some of us may want to hate the movie, it's probably not going to even be that bad. Again, from a messaging standpoint, yeah, it probably will. But as an overall movie, it's going to be okay. Marvel does a good job even on their bad movies. So it's going to do okay. It's going to be an okay movie. It's not going to be a great movie. In fact, it may not even be a particularly good movie, but it'll be decent and it'll pass. Now, the real question is, how is this going to affect the overall MCU? You can skip one Marvel movie and avoid it. However, Kevin Feige has said Captain Marvel is the future of the MCU. So what are we looking at later down the line, whether this movie does well or not? What are the possible ramifications here? Well, let's look at the most immediate impact, and that's going to be Avengers Endgame. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Some rumors have it that there are multiple cuts of Endgame, depending on how well Captain Marvel does. So the better Captain Marvel does, the more prominent a role she'll play in Endgame, whereas the worse it does, the more she's going to be cut from the movie. Now, that would be a very interesting take and an interesting way to resolve an issue of a bad movie. And to be honest, it's a brilliant way of shoehorning this character in, really like she has been. Whether or not there are multiple cuts to Endgame, I don't think it will have a huge impact on how well Endgame actually does. But this is where things get interesting. Let's say Captain Marvel does bomb, and she does end up playing a very prominent role in Endgame. Well, I think we're starting to look at a Star Wars effect here. And that is, Marvel and Disney have spent the last almost 2 decades building up a credit with their fan base. And they're really expending a lot of that credit to get this movie out. However, there is only so much credit built up. Now, is it going to affect Endgame? No. But as we go further down the line into the future of the MCU, I think we're going to see more fan reaction to those movies. So if Captain America bombs and she plays a huge role, let's say she beats Thanos by herself, and everybody dislikes this character, well, that means the next Marvel movie is probably going to take a hit, just like Solo did. Solo wasn't a terrible movie, but I think there was a fan backlash to The Last Jedi that really played a part in its failure. And I think you'll see the same thing in the MCU. I think we'll see subsequent movies take a hit in the box office if they continue to push and drive this character that nobody wants into the MCU and into this prominent position. So it's going to be interesting to see just how this movie does, how well it does financially, and more specifically, how Marvel reacts to that. Are they going to take a hint from the fan base, or are they going to continue to push to a specific subgroup that, quite frankly, historically doesn't pay to see these kinds of movies? So it'll be interesting really to see what happens in the immediate future, but also in the continued future of the MCU. So one more time with my prediction, I think the movie is going to do okay. I hope it does worse than what I think it will do. Again, I'm guessing about $85 million for the opening weekend, and overall it's going to be an okay movie. I do believe that it will send a message to Marvel and Disney. I don't think Disney can afford to have another Star Wars situation on their hands, especially if the rumors are true that the Russo brothers didn't want Captain Marvel in either of the Infinity War movies, and the studio still forced them to put her in. I think if, again, the studio reacts, they'll allow more creative controls back to the directors, back to really the creative forces that have led the MCU into such prominence. I'm a firm believer that one of the reasons the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been so successful is because Disney has, up to this point, really had a very hands-off approach and just let Marvel do what Marvel does. They've allowed creative control into their directors and writers and let them make the decisions for their movies. But let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think is going to happen with the MCU? How well do you think Captain Marvel is going to do? Let me know in the comments. I'm really interested to hear what other people have to say. I want to know your input. If you like the video, please leave a like. I'm always adding more content to this channel. Let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like to hear. And subscribe, and I'll try to get more content out to you. Guys, have a great day and enjoy your time at the movies.
Aren't you the cutest little thing? Aren't you cute? And what's your name, huh?
Carrie.
What's cute? I'll be back.